Okay, this is Chuck Rowe from MSG. Thanks for joining us once again for another webinar. Today we're going to focus on local grassroots nonprofits. We have a panel discussion set up with some amazing guests. I'm going to have everyone just go around, say your name quickly and your nonprofit, and maybe just a sentence or two of what your services are. Anyone could go first.
I'll do it. My name's Alicia Palmer, and I am the co-founder, along with my husband Mark, of the Knox Blocks Foundation. We started our foundation when we lost our 3.5-month-old son, Knox, to SIDS. He went down for a nap and didn't wake up. So basically, our mission is to do whatever we can to prevent other families from having to feel a loss like ours. And what we do is we donate Owlet Smart Socks, which is a device worn by infants that measures their heart rate and their oxygen level. And if something is abnormal, an alarm goes off and it lets parents know. So it provides them with the right information at the right time. And we just feel that had Knox been wearing one, he may still be with us. And we feel like every baby deserves to have one. So we do everything that we can to provide as many as possible to families that can't afford them.
Keep going. Karen, why not? Karen.
My name is Karen Rowe. I am with the House of Hope in Waterloo, Iowa. Our mission is to end the cycle of homelessness for single moms, as well as women that are aging out of the foster care here in the Cedar Valley. So we provide housing, individualized case management, and a plethora of other programming in order to help women go from homelessness or at risk of homelessness into complete self-sufficiency.
And next, Caprice.
My name is Caprice Jones. I'm the founder and executive director of the Founding Youth Program in Dubuque, Iowa. And our mission is to change the mindsets that contributes to generational poverty. And our approach to the mindsets with the S being emphasized is that we not only want to educate individuals that's been trapped in generational poverty of how to come out and stay out, but also we want to educate individuals that's never experienced generational poverty of how not to keep someone trapped in it by creating barriers that prevents them from ever coming out.
Awesome. And little did I know, my former neighbor, Miss Montgomery, would be joining us today. You know, why don't you tell us your name, the nonprofit you're representing, and just a sentence or two about your nonprofit.
Sure. Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, and I am standing in for William Corey Muhammad for Impact Foundation, which is an acronym. We do know how to spell. There's 2 T's in it. It's called IMPACTT, and it's an acronym for I am part of a change today and tomorrow. And our biggest focus is on at-risk youth, providing them a safe haven for both academics, athletics, giving them a way out of the streets or mentorship, community service projects. We work in partners with the schools regarding their grades and just keeping them on track to give them a different outlet than the streets.
So this question is for anybody that wants to answer it. Smaller local nonprofits are a different monster compared to larger groups like hospitals and universities and even nationally known organizations. What are some of the benefits of being a smaller local nonprofit?
Well, having worked in both the larger nonprofit as well as the small one, the largest benefit that I've really been able to see is a lack of red tape and the ability to have a dream and be able to pursue that without having a lot of constraints on you, but just having that open ability to dream and execute.
I would say, I work for a large nonprofit, which is Waterloo Schools. And we've been doing Impact now for about 12 years. And I would say the benefit to being small is the personalization that you get to make with it. You truly get to know every little person that comes through your program. You know, when they start in third grade and they're still coming back and giving their time to the organization, you know, now after college and in their 20s. It's not just you get to see them for a small moment. You get to go every step with them, which is very rewarding and very fulfilling. And you really truly get to know the family, not just the member of the organization. The biggest downfall would be is I agree with you, Karen. It is much easier to dream at a smaller level, but it is much, much harder to finance at a smaller level. And that has been our biggest struggle in the past 12 years is we definitely have the kids and we reach them, but we don't have a facility or a large financial backer. So.
And then, you know, as you talk about some of the positives, I mean, that's a great point, Angela, is what are some of the drawbacks as well of being a local nonprofit?
I believe some of the drawbacks is having to prove yourself. You know, you have to show you got to show that you belong. You have to create an atmosphere to make yourself sustainable, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication for a person that's a founder of a nonprofit. It all depends on like how far you want to see it go. So like a person like me, when I founded the Founding Youth Program, it just came from a vision. It was nothing that was planned or had market research, because I've been hearing a lot of people, and I work with people that's trying to start nonprofits, and I talk to them about how they have to basically do this total opposite of what I did if they really don't see it as being something that's driven by a vision from God. They have to be prepared more so than me, because I was very hopeful and everything just lines up. But for someone that's coming in from a business standpoint to make it sustainable, they have to have all their ducks lined up in a row the right way. So I think it's hard work and dedication. It's my passion, so this is my entire life. I love it.
And I think that's something that's really in common with a lot of you is that every time I speak to each of you about what your nonprofit is or someone on your staff about your nonprofit, you could tell that there's a lot of love and passion there. You know, Alicia, when you think of that love and passion of your nonprofit, was it easy to translate that mission and that excitement to other people, or did it take a little time for you to do that?
You know, it didn't take time. And that is one of the blessings of being in a small community. You start from a place where everybody knows everybody. And so for us, our nonprofit, it came through the most tragic thing that could happen. And our community's hearts were broken with ours. And so, when we decided to do this, it wasn't just us on board. It was everybody that we know on board 100%, giving everything that they have and believing in it. And that's truly, why we've been successful is because of everybody else and the support that we've gotten. So that kind of two-part answer of the benefit of being a smaller nonprofit, I would say community 100%. And yeah, we didn't have an issue with people believing in our mission.
Well, one thing that's exciting for each of you is getting to see how you grew from, let's say, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even last year, who knows? But, Angela, you come to mind because you think of like that first basketball team, as many as you have now. The question I have for each of you is maybe if you could each say where you were client-wise maybe 2 or 3 years ago and where you are client-wise now.
Well, like you said, Chuck, we started off with 7 young men, and we currently serve 150 plus.
Go ahead.
Wait, I'm sorry, you go.
So we we had a goal our first year to donate 100 outlet smart socks to families in need, and we're just entering our fourth year, and we have donated over 5,000 monitors across the entire country to every state. Iowa definitely being our biggest state for sure that we donate to, and then we're in a lot of daycare centers as well.
Well, when I started out, I didn't have a goal as far as like how many people. I didn't have referral basis or nothing, and I've served probably now over, I don't know, well over 1,000. Like, I mean, I'll say maybe close to 1,000 people, different people, and we have core programs that's set now when we didn't have a core program that was set. To really like be able to create data and measure the outcomes that we actually doing. And so right now I'm working with, because I'm only one person that's doing programming with the help of my staff members that help me periodically, but that's not their jobs. Right now I'm serving probably, I believe, 20 different participants. And also I'm starting to do community engagement where I'll be serving like whole companies, like corporations, to train them in diversity, equity, and inclusion with the lived experience approach.
Well, 5 years ago, House of Hope had 10 apartments. We are limited in the family size that we could serve. Today, we have 15 apartments, 5 rooms for the single women. So that's 20 units there. And then we also have outreach. 5 years ago, our waiting list was tragically at 30 families. And unfortunately, our waiting list just a couple months ago was at 125 families. So we've expanded our service, but we also have a lot more waiting for that service as well.
So it sounds like all of you need more funding to do more services.
Yes.
Can I interrupt 1 minute, Chuck? Karen, are you guys back taking donations?
Yes,
But
we are.
during COVID, you weren't. So I had a few people who have several closed to donate, but they were waiting to find out if you were back taking them.
Yep, they can just call, and we're doing it by appointment to just try and make it contact free. So absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
So everyone who watches this, see how easy it is? Karen already got a donation and only took 5 minutes of talking about the story. So Karen, I did want to invite you on here, partly because you went through a capital campaign, and a lot of, nonprofits that started in the past 2, 3, 4 years, they've been dreaming about doing a capital campaign. You guys did one. When you first started going through the process of the capital campaign, and you notice all these other bigger nonprofits are doing them, including like hospitals and universities and other names around town, what was that like for you? Were you scared at all? Were you nervous?
Absolutely. And I will say this, we did not have the resources we needed to do what our dream was. So we knew what we needed to move forward, but we didn't have any of the funding that we needed for the traditional way to do a capital campaign. We didn't have the reach that we needed to do this. And yet somehow, here we are in our new building. We were able to tell our story. And that's really what got us through this. I would not suggest it for anybody else. I'd suggest you do your homework and, kind of look at the tried and true method. But for us, I will say we were able to tell our story, and we had this amazing community that kind of carried us through this process. And here we are today in a completely different realm than we were even 3 years ago. It looked nothing like it does today. And it was all because we were able to get outside of our walls and tell the community what it was that we were doing and why it was so important to be here. And they just carried us right through.
And you reached your goal. I mean, you were able to play with the big boys, right?
Yeah, we surpassed our goal. Absolutely.
It's great. I see this person walking back and forth between Caprice once in a while, And it makes me think, gosh, I wish he wore a big tie-dye shirt today. So next time around, Chris, you need to get that tie-dye shirt. So anyways, this question is for Alicia and maybe Angela. When you think about your board of directors from when you first started until what the board looks like now, what was that growth like? What was that education for the board like during that transition and that time?
When we started, our needs were different. Your foundation, it evolves and it changes as you grow. And so from day one to today, a lot of things are the same, but yet they're not. The board of directors, that was actually the very first thing that we did before we even went and talked to an attorney, before we filed for our tax ID and did all of the paperwork and legalities. The first thing that we did was we sat down and we were very strategic about choosing our board of directors. The best advice that I received was, you need to choose people, don't choose your best friends to be on your board. You need to choose people to be on your board that see your vision, they share it, but they're not afraid to tell you no. And that was huge. So keeping that in mind, I sat down and I wrote down all of the things that I'm really, really bad at doing. Everybody likes to talk about the things that they're good at and ignore the things that they're bad at. But to have a strong board, you really need to know where you suck. And I suck in a lot of places. And so that's what I did. I just made this list of all the things, like, I'm not good at numbers. I am not good at logistics. I am not good at details. I am good at creative stuff and coming up with ideas. And then I move on to something else. So I basically just listed all of that out. And then, my past world was the corporate world. And I knew a lot of people that would fit into these roles very well, way better than me. And that was how we started. We asked them, and we started with, I believe it was 7 board members. And now today, I think we have 12. I want to say, 12. We always try to keep it an odd number for votes, but it always ends up being an even number for some reason. But what we've added, as we, started to grow, we realized, like, with what we do, we come up against the medical world a lot, and they're not always supportive of what we do. And so we needed experts in the medical field that believed in our mission. And so we added a couple of really knowledgeable people in the medical field to our board, and that was huge. We didn't have a CFO to start with, and we added a CFO as we grew, and we knew, okay, we need to be investing some of this money so that the foundation can, during a bad month, that it's going to be okay. So there was just rules like that. Again, just as we evolved and things changed and the growth has continued, you find that there's holes, and you'll feel these holes where something's missing, and you need to put a person in there to fill that.
And Angela, you had that time when you had 7 kids in the program. What was that board like compared to what it is now?
Well, we did not have that good advice that you had, and we started off just as all best friends, and thankfully, by the grace of God, we are all still best friends. But it really did start off as the 3 gentlemen who are the co-founders, were local volunteering coaches and always ended up against each other. And they're like, let's take these boys bigger, and let's mentor them and take them under the wing, because a few of them had gotten into some, juvenile mischief, and so they had gone to bat with them with like judges and stuff. So that's kind of like how this all started. And we always say that the wives were the voluntold. They just got brought along and got a job on that board. And so we started off with about 5 of us, and like I said, it was definitely sometimes a love-hate relationship, but like with Caprice, we had that passion there for what we knew our mission stood for and what we knew we could make happen for these kids. So we've survived. And now our board is probably of about 12 people, and it is more of all people who don't have the actual hands-on interactions daily with those kids, so that we don't burn people out. Because what we found is, since we don't have that financial backing, nobody's paid. It's all volunteer basis. And so when you're asking all on a volunteer basis, it's hard to be the mom or the dad or the team mom and the coach and the water boy and, hey, let's throw at treasurer at you and marketing, so we have expanded from those 3 to 5 of us to about 12 people who do have expertise, like in the financial backgrounds and in the marketing and in the computer aspect, to be able to do our websites and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
One thing I find really impressive with you, and always have, is that, so I mentioned before that Angela and I, we were like work office neighbors for a while. Our offices are right next to each other. And I'm surprised, do you have an earpiece in right now?
I do have my heads. Yeah.
She always has a headset on, always.
Yep.
And she goes 3,000 miles per hour. I'm surprised she found time for this, to be honest with you. So everyone else that's part of this group, they work on their nonprofit full time, and that's what they focus on. With you, you're doing it on top of your actual job. Now, I know that your husband is involved with Impact, but still, what made it that you wanted to actually spend time on a local grassroots nonprofit? What was it that made you think to yourself, well, gosh darn it, from a volunteer point of view, I'm going to find X number of hours to do more?
See, now, Chuck, you're going to make me cry.
So that's cool.
Because I have 4 boys, and I know, especially now more than ever in the state of the world, what the wrong path can do to a kid. And it is sad to think about the ones that we have lost along the way, either to death or to the criminal penitentiary program. But it's those successes of those kids who still come to my house on a weekend to catch a meal because they know that they can, or that they still contact any of their previous coaches or people from our program and just want that advice. And it was able to build stability for my children, to put them around the right type of people and the right friends, and to learn that everything is not privilege. Being biracial, they have a little bit of a different world, but to know that everything doesn't come with privilege, even though sometimes they might be in a better place than the others. What that's like to give back, and to just give some of these kids hope. So it's worth it every day, no matter what. If it's 8 hours we put in extra, or it's 300 walking tacos that we're making on the roads that these kids get to eat because they come with no money. It's all worth it in the end. So thanks, Chuck, for making me bawl.
You're welcome. Don't worry, we're only going to put this on social media in front of everybody. So. Hey, Caprice, once upon a time, you got a paycheck that would come every week that you can count on. And then you decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to start something brand new, and God knows how this is going to work. What was that journey like for you, from going from something that you can count on to now to something that you're just putting full faith that it's going to work out?
Well, I was just telling my board president recently, because he come from a whole different world than I come from. And I come from generational poverty. And I'm 42 years old, and basically all my life, I lived off hope. I live from hope. So I'm used to hope. I'm used to being hopeful. And so when I realized what my hope was being supported by, it was through my relationship with God. And so God directs my path. And so my trust is in him. And that actually was stemmed from me building a relationship with him while I was in prison. And while in prison, I realized that, God got my back. For some reason, I'm about to get cut off. Oh, it's still there. They said it was about to end me, so it didn't. So basically, from pay, like, it was never, I don't live for money. I live for purpose. And so the Founding Youth Program is a part of my purpose on this earth. And so wherever my purpose leads me, I trust in that it's the best thing for me. So that's how I'm rooted and grounded in that. It's been like that since I was in prison and while out of prison.
Well, this question, anybody out there, again, I think your testimony there really speaks for everybody right now, where, you can only move forward on progress when you have that heart and mission and drive for what you do. And that's a great example that you just gave, Caprice. And so I'm kind of curious for anybody who wants to answer this. What was it like when, if you can describe that smile on your face, the first time you were able to go to a donor and ask for, let's say, $1,000 being, a large gift, being considered a large gift, when you got your first $1,000 agreement from somebody? What was that like, that conversation and the smile on your face afterwards, for anybody out there?
I think you tried, I can't play it cool at all. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So I maybe even jumped on top of our donor and just squeezed him and hugged him and cried and did all the things you probably are not supposed to do, but it's just such, to have somebody in a stranger, a complete stranger, believe in your mission and support your mission and help you create this change that you so desperately know is needed. I just, you can never thank people enough. You can never show your gratitude enough. I wish there was words other than thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I think, for all of us and in the positions that we're in, and when you are in the nonprofit world and you're so passionate about it and it's so near and dear to your heart, a donor, even a donor that I get just as excited when I see like a $5 donation come in, to be honest, because that may be all that person has is $5 and they're giving it to us. And that is just incredible. It's incredible.
I honestly remember our first close to $1,000 donation. We were trying to get all these kids to Pella, Iowa. And it was, there wasn't enough personal vehicles. We could have strapped them to the tops and put them in luggage racks, and there still just was not enough. And the thought of having to tell this kid over that kid that they didn't get to go was just next to impossible. And so we, to this day, still do not know who donated the money, but we had an anonymous donor give the $700 to pay for a charter bus. And we took 60 kids, and as we were loading them, some of them had just made the comment, and we're so excited. To go to Pella, which was, there's no amusement parks and there's none of that, but they had never left Waterloo before. And so the fact that they got to be on this big charter bus that was going to play a movie for them, and they got to have their friends and then stay at a hotel that had never left a town before. I was driving in my own vehicle, and my now 15 and 13-year-old boys were probably 4 and 2. I cried the entire way, thanking God that we got to do this experience for these kids. And like you said, it's every small donation that makes it possible for any kid to be in our program that we might have to turn away because a mom or a dad would not have the money to fund them. It goes to them. So yeah, my heart melts with everyone. So I haven't got those 10s and 20s and 30,000s of donations that Karen and Caprice got. So maybe I might jump all over somebody if I got that. But the $5 ones mean just as much.
I'm inspired by you all's talks, because I never had the opportunity to talk to other people that founded a nonprofit really like this. So it was always I felt kind of like alone, like I had to be able to like learn things without having someone to like bounce what happens when this happens off for us. Because a lot of people that I work with in partnerships, they are employees, so they didn't start it, so it's different when you're a founder, and it's very humbling. And I remember the person, I'm actually doing a video tonight on Facebook with the guy who actually gave us our first $1,000 donation. And he's one of my good friends now. And he's been a good friend of mine since back then. But he didn't even know me. And I walked up in his office with a janitor's uniform on when I was told from other people, they was like, oh man, you need to go connect with this guy, but you have to have a suit. And I'm like, oh man, I got to buy a suit, you know, and I didn't even have no money to buy a suit, but I was willing to buy a suit because I really needed the help from him. And I went to see him a few times, and I went in my janitor's outfit every time, just who I was a janitor when I first started the nonprofit, but I couldn't do both jobs. So I had to raise my own salary to, or else I was going to be jobless, and I got a family to take care of. So I went to his office. He put out his checkbook, and I didn't know what he was going to give me. He wrote a check, said $1,000. He said, here you go, man. He said, the reason why I'm giving you this is because you're tenacious, man. You know, and I believe in what you're trying to do. And he's one of my donors now, but he also a friend of mine. I drove his boat. That was the first boat I ever got the chance to drive. So a lot of things had developed in that humbling moment, and I'm very appreciative of every second of everything that's happened for the Founding Youth Program.
I'm not sure I remember the first donation that specifically, but I remember the first time I got the opportunity to, I guess, pitch it to somebody. And for me, what it wasn't the dollar amount that came in. It wasn't even a check that night. I remember looking around the room and seeing somebody crying. And in that moment, I knew that I connected with them on a completely different level, and that they could see. They could see one of our families. They could see one of the women. They could see the struggles, and they cared. And for me, that was the moment that it just felt like, this is going to work. This is going to happen. We're going to have our new building. We're going to see hundreds of families come through here, hundreds of families reach that level and be able to thrive. Hundreds of families break those cycles. And that was it for me, is that moment that I could see somebody just really, truly connect with our mission.
Well, for these last two questions, what I want to do is, here's the rules. You can only give a one-sentence answer. If it starts going longer, I'm cutting you off. So one-sentence answer for these last two questions. The first one is this: you can give one piece of advice to a new nonprofit. What would it be?
Never give up.
Live your passion.
Trust the process.
Pressure now. You guys had some really good ones.
Angela stole mine. I mean, no, it was one of them said never give up.
That's because we have about the same story, Caprice.
Do not ignore the nudges that you get along the way.
And as people could tell, I did not prep anyone with questions ahead of time because I want the most honest answers possible. So I appreciate you guys playing along like this. But here's the last question. Again, just one sentence long. Actually, not even a sentence, just like a word, really. But leading a local nonprofit isn't just a job. It's a what?
How to use this
Lifestyle.
with passion.
Yep. Lifestyle.
It's a legacy.
It's making a dream come true.
Well, I think everyone here that's watching will totally agree that this panel was a great encouragement for everyone out there that's starting a nonprofit. Just wanted to thank each of you for being part of this, because there's so many small and medium-sized nonprofits that need some encouragement, that need a little pat on the back to know that what they're doing is making a difference. So I wanted to thank each of you. Also, thanks for everyone for joining us. Chuck Rowe from MSG. Catch you next time. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, everyone.